We are moving on really swiftly because it's 26 minutes to midday, and I am delighted to say that I am actually joined live in studio for only the second time by Mr. Collie McFadgen, who's here to tell us all about what's playing on the big screen at the moment and what's coming up over the next month. Good morning, Collie. How are you?
I am great. I'm very excited, to be honest with you, to be here because actually when we met before, it was actually on an outside broadcast. So this is my first time in the temple of radio. That is,
you've never been up here before.
I've never been allowed. There used to be a sign, but apparently the statute of limitations is gone. So I thought, come on, we'll go up for a day because we've lots of we have blockbusters to talk about. That Zoom, I don't think we have the bandwidth. The movies are that big, we wouldn't be able to talk about them over Zoom. So I thought I'd come up and have a little chat with you about all the blockbusters that are coming up in the cinemas. And we really
are getting into blockbuster season at the minute. You know, we're May, June, July, August now. We're really getting into blockbuster season, and you know, they are delivering this year.
Yeah, and because we had the whole logjam even of the blockbusters last year, where we had a couple of big ones, obviously Top Gun, obviously Elvis, but they were a couple of months in between all the big ones. Whereas now it's every weekend, to the point where when I was texting you beforehand going, what will we talk about this month? Yeah. I had to cut out a load of movies like Transformers and all those sort of ones that are last year would have been the first movie we talk about. We're probably not even going to mention. But I suppose we should start this month where we left off last month. You and I were kind of cautiously talking about Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yes.
Because we were saying that the problem with the Marvel movies, because we're on like number 74 or whatever it is, and they are really good. They've raised the bar so high. Now, good enough isn't really good enough anymore. It's like Man City. You know, they play at such a high level that if they're not amazing, and I'm a Man United fan, so I hate them anyway, but they play such a level that, you know, just dropping a bit, you're judging them by their own standards.
Yeah,
and I think
exactly.
The last couple of Marvel movies, because they weren't Spider-Man, they weren't the Avengers, we're kind of going, yeah, they're good, and like 10-year-old Rory and Collie would have loved these, but you know, is it really good? They need a good one. They need to get their mojo back. And I really think they have with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Okay, that's a bold statement.
Yeah, well, it was, and I tell you, my scepticism lasted about a minute and a half until the soundtrack kicked in. And by the time they started playing Since You've Been Gone by Rainbow, I am back.
You're sold.
I am sold. The thing that they have here is that you actually care about the characters. I would reckon in a month's time, I will probably not remember the plot. I'm really old and I watch lots of things. I won't remember the plot. I won't remember the special effects. But I remember the characters. I remember Groot going, I am Groot, and being really funny, saying the one thing. It's the best thing Vin Diesel ever did, and we're going to talk about him soon. Rocket is such a good character.
Yeah.
And really he's at the forefront. This is Rocket's story. We find out about where he came from, where this kind of weird...
Well, that's what I was going to say. Talk us through the plot. Talk us through what we can expect and what actually happens.
So, what happens is we're starting off, the Guardians are happily settled on their planet. They're living a good life, except, you know, Star-Lord is devastated by the loss of Gamora. This doesn't mean nothing to somebody who hasn't seen it, but we're not going to talk them into seeing it anyway. Suddenly, this golden god literally appears and attacks Rocket. Trying to heal Rocket, they realise he has technology inside him that is licensed to a company. And unless they find out how to get the cure for this technology, he is going to die. And that is the kick-off point. It's save Rocket. And in saving Rocket, we find out why this talking super genius raccoon came to exist in the first place. We find out his backstory, and it bonds all the Guardians into one final chapter of their adventure. But that's the thing. It is, all of them get their piece. All of the characters have their 5 minutes. And sometimes that can seem like a mishmash when that happens. You know, nobody gets a full story. But they actually manage to link it all together, mostly through humour. It is really funny. And like the people who get their best lines are Dave Bautista, the wrestler, as Drax, the Destroyer, who is... His character is humourless and doesn't get humour and nuance, and it has all the best lines. But also Karen Gillan, who you'd be a big fan of from the Doctor Who days. Her Nebula is now a fully rounded character. She was just like a cyborg bad guy in the first couple of movies. Now she's really funny and really clever and really emotive as well. But it's Rocket that's the heart of it. As good as Chris Pratt is, obviously the ego has let them step aside a bit
Yeah.
and go, this is the story we're telling this time, and this will tie up the sort of Guardians trilogy nicely in a bunch, all knitted together with banger after banger. I reckon that all of the soundtrack you could play, like, I'm not saying you would ever phone it in, Rory, but supposing you had a big Friday night one time, you could sneakily slip on Guardians of the Galaxy soundtrack Volume 3 and everyone would go, God, Rory's on form today.
He's on fire.
He's on fire today. It is just good fun. Is it like, it's not super consequential in the big way Avengers were, but that's not necessarily a problem. We always have big stories. We're always saving the galaxy, always saving the world. But the thing is, they're trying to save their friend, and maybe that's why it works. But mostly, it's funny and it's a good time. And aside from, they have one, one swear word in it, first time ever in a Marvel movie. I don't think that was necessary, but it is generally a family one that everyone can enjoy. And even if mum or dad has been dragged along, and even if they hadn't seen any of them, unlike when we talked about Ant-Man last time, we said you'd have watched the other ones. This is one you could plop in, it could be your first one ever, and you'd still enjoy it.
Well, that's good, and I think that's really important because, especially with Marvel. You would have found that, if you there is no ideal jumping on point except at the beginning of the saga, the trilogy, the quad, whatever you want to call it. So it's sort of refreshing that, each movie can be its own jumping on point and you'll get just as much out of it. Yeah,
you'll catch up no problem with the character development, but because you just already you go, this guy's funny, this guy's clever, this guy's thick. And they just have the characters right, and it's just so well done. And of course, James Gunn, who's the director, is now off to run DC, and he won't be making them anymore. But he wanted to leave with a bang, and he most certainly has. And I'm excited in a way I haven't been. And I know one of the people I work with who's a big Marvel buff, he went to see it, and he was kind of going, I don't know, I'm not so keen. Maybe I'll go again. He went again, he said, I was completely wrong. It's really emotional, and I just didn't get it the first time. Loved it. So if the absolute Marvel nuts are loving it, and me, who's a fan but more casual, and kind of go, I want to have a laugh, right? We're going to talk about, maybe if we time, if I don't go on too much, like stuff like Lakelands, who proper dramas, and they're interesting to do. But when it comes to this, I want to have a laugh. I want to eat some popcorn and laugh and listen to the music. And if I can get a bit emotionally involved in the characters, great.
That's a bonus.
And that's exactly what happened.
Exactly.
So that's a win-win as far as I'm concerned.
It's the final installment, or supposedly the final installment. Are we going to be seeing spin-offs here? Yeah,
I think we will have a Guardians of the Galaxy, but they may be called something else, and some of the characters, because I'm not saying everyone makes it through. Who knows? Maybe they do, maybe they don't. No spoilers here. Not in Highland Radio. We'd save that for the lesser stations. Don't have our sort of numbers, right?
Careful.
Well, they're not listening. Well, maybe they are. They're trying to get your ideas, Rory.
Just be careful.
Sorry, I never thought of that. Vladimir Putin's out there taping. But we will see these characters in some form or another. But of this particular bunch, I think they've wrapped it up nicely. That everything else is a bonus, but you still feel the story is ended.
Okay. So that's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 in theatres now, and doing pretty well. It's taken $364 million at the box office so far, and that's just they're going to keep building.
They ain't done.
That's just the start. Right, so that's Guardians of the Galaxy in theatres now. Saw this advertised last night, and we're sort of thinking, not again. Vin Diesel.
Oh yeah,
Fast. So are we Fast 10 or Fast X?
Fast and nonsense is what it is. It's hard to know, but it's all about family. That's their ad. It's all about family.
Yeah.
Where it's not, it's about ludicrous car stunts. However, I have to say, I was an absolute unbeliever when it came to the Fast and Furious movies. Didn't really like them. I love driving, but I'm not a car guy. And when they kind of took themselves more seriously. But once they brought The Rock in, I think it's about Fast 5 or so on, and they started getting more and more silly, I was on board. Right, okay. I like the nonsense side. Once The Rock knocked away a torpedo with his hand, I went, right, I'm interested. In the last one, Ludacris, never a better named rapper, drove a car into space, right? And I was going, embrace this side. The only bits I'm not mad about here is where Vin Diesel goes, oh, this is proper acting bit. And I go, nah, don't do that. Throw a car at somebody again. And they just keep on bringing in all these over-the-top characters. And because it's so incredibly successful, what happens is they realise, okay, John Cena's the bad guy. Okay, he's been beaten twice now. We can't bring him back again. Let's bring him back as a friend. So all the bad guys are now the good guys. Jason Statham was the bad guy. Now he's part of the gang.
Okay.
And now they've brought in Jason Momoa, Aquaman himself from Game of Thrones, friend of Donegal. He loves Donegal. He's been surfing in Donegal. He loves it. But he is such an over-the-top scenery tour actor anyway. You kind of wonder, how wasn't he in this already? He is made for it. Seriously, Rory, I'll send you the trailer and you just see the grin on his face and you go, that's what you want for this movie. He is not taking this seriously. He is thinking about his bank account and the crack he's going to having a laugh with all the gang on it. It is not... People really love it. And you know what it's like? Because people really enjoy it. I am not the biggest fan, but I have to say the last couple, they were just so silly and fun.
But are they doing anything? I mean, is one just a rehash of the previous? You know. I mean, we're 10 movies.
Yeah,
in
well, you're talking about plot, which I think is your first mistake there.
Yeah, thinner than the ground.
Thinner than my hair. Do you know what I mean? Like, so. The plot doesn't matter. Like, there will be people here listening who will be raging now, hearing us going, oh no, man, I'm really into the storyline. Yeah. You're a liar. Sorry, I'm sorry, you are. You're into the cargo smashy fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is, they're stretching it. Now, this is supposed to be the penultimate one. We're supposed to get Fast 11, and that's it. I heard Vin Diesel saying this morning, going, well, the studio was asking about number 12. I don't know. How they going to... Like, what are they going to do? Just get planets driving into each other? Yeah, I mean, don't know how they can go bigger.
I never saw it go in the distance. I mean, 1, 2... I saw the first one in the cinema.
Yeah.
I saw the second one on DVD, and that's where I stopped.
Yeah.
I didn't see it making it to a third or a fourth. Now we're at number 10, so...
And I think DVD was actually the saving of this. 2, 3, 4 were huge on DVD and got a cult following, particularly about young people. But also, and I used to work as a language teacher and teaching young Spanish kids, French kids, English. They used to love watching this, right? Because the language is simple. You put on the English subtitles. And it's an international cast. They are known worldwide. And that was the other thing. It started doing really well in China, in India, in Japan. And because the plot is so simple, and let's face it, the language is so simple, it became really popular. And it's actually now bigger. It's very unusual that the 10th movie could be bigger than the first two, which were like little throwaway pretty much straight to DVD films, but they just got bigger and bigger, and it's a formula, no more than James Bond. It's a formula. You know exactly what's going to happen.
And as long as people keep going and keep spending money and buying the tickets and making them a profit, they're going to keep churning these things out.
And people do, and people love them. And as I have to say, I like when they lean into the silliness. I think that's when they're at their best. And having watched the trailer several times for this one, it seems to be leading into
when is it out?
That opens this Friday.
Friday.
So it's going to be huge.
Fast 10, Fast X, whatever you want to call it, hitting theatres this coming Friday. Okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to talk Lakelands.
Lovely.
This.
Rory, Farrell, Saturday morning, going back in time. Highland Radio.
11 minutes to midday. Colin McFadden is here with me in studio. We are talking all things movies. So next up is something a little bit more serious. Lakeland.
Yeah, we'll give a quick mention because I know we're going to run out of time because I talk too much as usual. But Lakelands is... you could have disagreed.
Where's the lie there? I don't know.
Yeah. So Lakelands is a small drama. Actually, funny enough, in cinemas at the moment, we have 2 movies set in Longford, in Granard, Anne Longford. And it's about a young GA player who gets involved in a fight in a nightclub, and his injury is slightly worse than they thought. And how does he readjust to life? Now, I live in a Gaelic football town. A lot of people around here, you know these characters, you know these lives. You know the guy who's the big local football star, but he's a bit too fond of a row in the nightclub, and he gets away with it because he's the star. I thought this was a really interesting drama. It stars Aina Hardwick is his name. I wasn't familiar with him. He's been in Kane and things like that. Along with, I think her name's Danielle Galligan, who's also in Kane and is going to be in Bitchery, which is filmed here in Donegal. Yeah. I thought this was really interesting. And among all the blockbusters, we always like to mention the Irish movies. Go and see this if you can. You will know these characters, and the drama's really good.
That is a very Irish thing, what you were saying there, it was a really Irish thing, somebody, the star hurler of the local club or the star footballer, and, they could get away with they could do the most horrendous things, but I know, but he's a great hurler.
Yeah, the nightclubs... The Limelight's not going anymore, so I can mention the Limelight, right? So my first ever nightclub I went to, but there you'd see somebody thrown out, and you go, how come he got back in next week? Because he's part of the team. That happens in every town in Ireland. Every single town in Ireland. You know these people. But the fact that you know these people, yet I was absolutely engaged in this drama. It's told so well, and it's sensitive and thoughtful and really, really well acted. So around the flying cars and Guardians of the Galaxies, it's nice to have something like this. And not everyone will be into the sort of sci-fi that both you and I love.
Yeah.
So I think this is good. And just
we'll all be able to identify with this in some way.
And just because, if it was made about American football, everyone would go and see it. But sometimes when it's homegrown, you go, how interesting can it be? Very interesting is the answer.
Okay, so that's Lakelands. That is coming
It's out right now.
It's out. Great, okay. And finally, the latest Disney live-action remake coming our way on the 26th of May. The Little Mermaid finally hits screens.
Yeah, and look, it's going to be so big. People are so excited about it. My niece, Aoife, who is 33 and is so excited about it. People are going, are the little kids excited about it? I'm going, well, yes.
And the big kids.
Of all ages. This looks really interesting, really good. Because some of those live action movies haven't really worked. Some of them have been great, some of them not so great. And I'm really interested to see this one. People are so excited because The Little Mermaid is one of people's favourites. They love the songs. The crab, Under the Sea is the song.
Oh, Sebastian,
it's so popular. People love these so much. So it's really interesting to see. And, the other movies we were talking about are probably all a bit blokey. So it's great to spread it around. Yeah. This opens at the end of May, just before the bank holiday. So it's going to be humongous. It's going to be all the school tours. And it looks, hopefully they go good. The trailer has me very excited about it. It looks really interesting. A musical, of course. Fond of a tune yourself.
This is the one, right? So we remember the Lion King remake.
Yeah.
It was pretty much shot for shot.
Yeah.
And had all the original songs plus a couple of new originals as well. Are they following the same approach here?
There's a couple of new songs as well, but also the Magic Man, Lin-Manuel Miranda, is behind it. The guy who did Hamilton, the guy who did Moana, who I think is brilliant. I went to see Hamilton there a couple of months ago. Absolutely blew me away. So the fact that he's there to jazz up the songs, so it's not a remake. You can love both movies is the idea. As opposed to The Lion King, which I thought, why would you watch one? Why would you watch both of them? You watch one or the other. Whereas it has to be a little bit different. I think that's what they did well with Cinderella and a few of the other remakes. The Jungle
Beauty
Book.
and the Beast.
Yeah. It was slightly different. So I'm hoping for this. The songs, you have the songs you love are there, but there's a couple of new ones and apparently a couple of great bangers. So
brilliant.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, so that's something to really look forward to towards the end of May. The Little Mermaid from Disney, the latest live action remake. Or do we call it a remake or do we call it a retelling?
A retelling. Oh, very good. You've done this before, haven't you?
Yeah, a retelling. We'll use that. That's probably the most diplomatic way of putting it.
Yeah, and if Disney are listening, there you go.
We're
both up for a job.
So we'll see. We'll talk about that next month and see how it's doing and how it actually panned out. What else have we got coming up next month?
Well, we've got Transformers. We've got the new Spider-Man, which is the animated one, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which looks amazing. It looks really good. Kids are going to be mad for this, but so are the adults. And of course we've got Indiana Jones, which I'm the most nervous about because Kingdom of the Crystal Skulls broke my heart. There are girls I went out with for longer that didn't break my heart as much as when I went to see that. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad movie, but it was a terrible Indiana Jones movie. And surely the only reason for Harrison Ford to go back is to redeem it. So that's it.
And Harrison Ford being Harrison Ford, if we think back to, Star Wars, Force Awakens, he probably wants to draw a line under it. I would say there was a clause in that contract to say, this is it. And we have to do it on screen definitively.
Yeah. One and done. Pass the whip along. But I like the idea of coming back and drawing a line under a great movie. Okay. So hopefully that. And there's so many others. We don't even have time. And then in July, Barbie. Can't wait for Barbie.
Yes. Really looking forward to that, I must say. Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to dress you up in pink and everything when we talk about that one.
No, you won't. No, you won't. Collie, you're never coming back in here again, that's for sure. Collie, thanks for joining us. We will talk to you next month. We will be talking Barbie, we'll be talking Transformers, we'll be talking loads of other stuff as well.
So many.
Looking forward to it. All right, that's it for this week's movie roundup, and we'll do it all over again next month. And I'm going to line up a track here if I can. No, it's not letting me. Of course it's not. We're going to go for an ad break.